Oh, I can, but I'm not gonna.
You can just like push that and be good to go.
Okay, so it's going to be a minute. Okay, it's 6:30, and I'll call this meeting to order. And in doing so, we will rise to single pennant.
Be seated.
So the next item on the agenda is any declaration of interest or general nature thereof. If anybody has an interest, please declare it now. Seeing none, we'll move forward with the consent agenda. Motion is put forward by Councilor Maybe and seconded by Councilor Fode that the July 12th, 2021 public and council meeting minutes, the August 24th, 2021 special meeting minutes, and the September 7th, 2021 committee of the whole meeting minutes be adopted as circulated. And the April 16th, 2021 MHC meeting minutes, June 16th, 2021 EDC meeting minutes, and June 29th and July 29th, 2021 committee of adjustment meeting minutes be received and filed. Any discussions, any errors or omissions? Go ahead, Councilor Peak.
Thank you, Your Worship. June 16th, I attended as a visitor, but they had me say something. So I'm not sure if I should be
Minutes.
in the record or not.
I think that's a note we can take back to the EDC to have an amendment brought forward because we're receiving this information purposes, but do. Any further errors and omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And we're carried. Next motion on the floor is staff reports. And again, the motion is made by Councilor Maybe, seconded by Councilor Fode, that council approves the staff reports as recommended at the September 7th, 2021 committee of the whole meeting. Now, gentlemen, there are a number of staff reports. Is there anything that anybody wishes to address specifically before we pass these staff reports, or any further questions that need to be asked? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? Information items. So again, there's a number of information items specifically for us, the budget update. The motion is made by Councillor Fody and seconded by Councillor Jameson, that the information items we received and filed. Was there any other any other questions or inquiries about any of the information items before I call the question? Oh, Mr. Jameson.
Your worship, thank you. A million technical problems, can't be my fault. But my question is, I'm reading this right, the budget 2022 report is in this group of things that we're going to pass now. I'm just
receiving it.
sorry.
That we're just receiving it, so we're not making any decisions.
No,
We're talking about, are you talking about the library services?
no, I was talking about I'm sorry, I had it up in one way. Finance report, SR 111-21-2022.
So that was in regards to where we're at with budget. Did you have a specific question?
My only, it's not so much question as a statement saying how much I appreciated how clear this report was, and that I hope we're all reading it very carefully. I've highlighted it and many parts of it, and I intend to try to make as many residents in the township aware of it by passing it around, because there's some very critical issues we're facing. So when we get bogged down in, where we're going to put the osprey or these kinds of things, we have to remember that we've got some pretty tough sledding ahead of us, and this is a particularly clear and concise report, and I really appreciate getting it. I think. But I really appreciate it.
Can't find your notes, so you're remembering that you think you're appreciative.
I think I appreciate it. The truth is hard to take sometimes.
I'm sure that the treasurer appreciates that feedback. Councillor Opie, would you like that?
Thank you, Your Worship, and clarify the clarification off from the other side of the ball. I think this is a very good report, and I intend to publish it on my township Facebook page, because it shows a lot of the considerations that we're faced with both as council and staff in putting budget forward, and it's really the first clear step in what has always been a transparent activity, but this sets it up very well for those who don't believe there are clear, transparent work going on here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Opie. Any other comments? Councillor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you, to our Director of Finance. That table you gave us compared our township to other regional municipalities. I'll reflect this back to our Director of Community Services. Is that something we could have that table reprinted on? Recently, I've been getting questioned about why our taxes are high, and like my esteemed colleague to my left here. I don't mind answering those questions, but a lot of the times the questions are misinformed. Where they got their information, I usually ask, and I usually don't get it answered. But at the same point, I think if that graph spells it out, and then I took that same graph, Director of Finance, one step further, our 0044 municipal levy. If you averaged out the whole 10, it comes out to 0060. So in essence, we could almost up our tax rate almost 50%, 46 point something to be exact, to still end up at the halfway. So my point is, without scaring everybody that might listen to me, we're a long way off the halfway, let alone at the top. I don't aspire to being at the top of that. But I think our residents need to see that in print. We have news that are going out, and we would dispel a lot of rumors. Facts are
Thank you. Any further comments or questions in regards to the information items in front of us? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And the other. Okay. The next segment, we're at the
Action required.
missed unfinished business.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, clerk's trying to rush me.
Sorry.
It's fine. Actually, I will make a point in regards to the action tracking list, which I should have brought up when the discussion was happening with the motion, but it is more of a comment, just to bring up the fact that the petition for County Road 3 and the speed reduction that was requested at county level has finally come forward and it's been discussed at committee, and my hope is that it will be passed at council, which is not this Thursday, but on Thursday. And also there was concerns about the Sweets Corners school zone in front of Sweets Corners School. So it was petitioned that be a speed zone only during school hours rather than at night, late at night. So there is I believe a flashing light that's going to be going in. So during that time that the flashing light is operating, then it would be a 40 kilometer an hour zone. But then after that, evenings and weekends, it would be considered an 80 zone as per regular highway rules. So I felt it important to underscore that it's not a done deal. Obviously, it has come to council, but I don't anticipate any pushback, and it should be passed by the end of the month. So thank you to the residents who brought that information forward to us. Councilor Ford, you have a question?
Thank you, Your Worship. I do. On that same subject matter, after hours would go to the
80.
80 or the 60 that's on either side now. There is a 60 on either side that's extended.
Sorry, you're correct. I believe it goes to the 60. I believe the concerns were some of the larger trucks that are going through there, having to slow right down to a 40, and then it'd be a bit more difficult. So I apologize, not to the 80, the 60 on either side. So it's the difficulty that was brought up at the county level. Mayor Jones from Municipality of Westport, a former OPP officer, she did indicate that it makes it more difficult for the OPP to enforce, because then it's time of day and people sort of argue, well, I didn't see the light, or that sort of thing, which I can appreciate from an enforcement point of view. And I know that OPP are covering a very large territory here, but I think that it's a reasonable balance between the locals and the safety needs of students, which is above all paramount. Follow?
I do, thank you, Your Worship. When you're referring to County Road 3, do you have any update on the redo of a portion from Dulce Main Road to the outlet that was done here a few weeks ago? Is that a first step of a finished product maybe next year? I see they've already put their lineage on there, I assume for the winter months.
That's a question I'll have to ask specifically of the county, but thank you for asking. And if you have any more specifics, so from the bottom of Dulce Main, I saw it near the outlet to the outlet. Okay.
I wasn't there. Product, ground it, lay it back down as a new asphalt mix, or they just put a new layer over
I
top.
would
But
imagine it's new.
Well, with regards to our county laws now that would put in paved shoulders on every renewal of a county road, that falls short. I'm just surmising that perhaps it's just a quick touch up leading up to something more wholesome next year.
I will ask the question specifically. Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I know we've got speed bumps in various places, specifically Ivy, but I'm wondering, I know David's our director is not here tonight. Do we have any thoughts on?
He is here. He's actually on the screen. So if you have a question for him, I'm sure we can get him an answer.
Oh, well, hey, David. I'm wondering about the flashing speed lights like they have when you get an on-way, which tells you how fast you're going and it blinks.
Is there a specific spot that you're referring to you'd like to see that?
Well, there's several. There's, there's Sealy's Bay going into the village. There's IDB, there's Rockport. I mean, I just wonder if there's something in the budget that upcoming that we can rotate perhaps to various locations, even if we have one or two. There's an issue around schools.
Okay. Director Holiday, would you like to speak to any possible changes in our speed limits or curbing speeding in our more densely populated areas? You have to unmute yourself. There
Thank you. Through your worship. So we're undertaking a bit of a process right now. We have a bunch of roads that are posted reduced speed that do not have bylaws associated with them. We have some roads that do have bylaws associated with them that are not posted or not posted correctly. So we're reviewing all of those speed zones right now and addressing those issues. We'll be placing a sign order shortly for that to make sure that they're in compliance. Can you hear me? I'm getting feedback. Everybody can hear me?
you might need to turn your volume down on your computer so that you can't hear us while you're talking, because you're coming through, the clerk has you coming through her microphone, so that's probably why you're getting feedback. So if you turn the volume down on your computer while you're speaking.
Okay, I've done that. Is that better? Okay. So we are looking at all of our current speed zones and addressing that. At the same time, we've received a bunch of requests for speed reduction. So we're going to be looking at those at the same time and bringing a report through to council to sort of clean everything up as it is right now and with the requests that have come through. We've started a process on our website as well for speed reduction, where we're looking for people to fill out a petition with a majority of the residents on the road segment that will be affected. Because myself, historically, what I've seen is that one person will come in and request a speed zone, we'll drop the speed on it, and the other 95% of the people that live on that road segment will come screaming at us. So just it's something that I implemented where I was previously, and it really cleaned things up. In terms of the driver feedback signs, we can certainly include something like that. They're about 6,000 to 6,500 per sign, and yeah, that's not a problem. They could be relocated fairly easily. They just have a bracket on the back which will mount to a hydro pole, or we can mount it onto a 4x4 or 6x6 post, and they're really easy to move around. So that shouldn't be an issue at all. We'll include something if that's of interest. I know it had been in the budget historically as well in 2020, I believe. It didn't reappear in 2021.
Okay, so you'll need to turn your volume back up in order to hear me. I think that is something that's good for consideration for next year's budget, that perhaps we can invest in one or two of these types of flashing things. If it's part of the report that comes to council, that it makes sense overall. I don't think it's an unreasonable request at all. So I think thank you for bringing that up. Councillor Foley?
Thank you, George. Through you to Director Holiday. That survey of the majority is at 50% plus one.
And Councillor Maybe?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. In looking at the report, I did notice that they have the Municipal Transportation flashing light in the 401. I did get some response when I asked the clerk about a report there. And from the OBP, they actually recommend that it does get put in, but the Ministry of Transportation are the ones who are saying they aren't going to put it in. So I don't know, when you have conflicting agencies like that, the monument still needs to be there. So I don't know if we have another step we can take to try to proceed and get this in place. Thank you.
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I did send an inquiry into Officer Johnson at our local detachment, and he's following up with what stage they're at. So I'll let you know when I find out.
Thank you. So, like I said, we're not really under a motion at this point. I just brought up the update for the action list, but thank you to all the people who have made their comments known. I know that the petitions have taken a little bit longer than anticipated, but there's been a change in staff at county level and other challenges through COVID, but hopefully we'll get it done in the next week. So thank you for your patience. So the next motion that's on the floor is in regards to action required items, and the motion is by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Fody, that council grant 3 readings and final passage to bylaw number 21-047, that the bylaw to appoint a community emergency management coordinator and an emergency information officer, and that council grant 3 readings and final passage to number 21-048, being a bylaw to appoint an emergency management program committee. Any discussion on this? I think the report's fairly clear, but go ahead, Councillor Footy.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Little did we know, or would anybody know for that matter, when we're setting up an emergency management committee, that they'd be tested the way they have this past year and a half. And I think now would be a good time to congratulate the head of that department, being our clerk, Kim, and the rest of the staff for having brought us through to where we are today. We're not quite over the finish line yet. I believe we can almost see it, but I think we've more than stood out regionally. But that also has a great deal to do with the residents of taking the information supplied to them seriously and applying it. I mean, it's always a bit of a feather in any person's cap, in this case, the health unit, to sit number 1 in the province for a few weeks for having the most vaccinated first doses and second doses. But that also is a trickle down and trickle up effect from our emergency management committee. So I've just hats off to the people who have led that for the past year and a half.
Thank you very much. I'll echo those sentiments, being part of that committee and early on having to sort of jump in without a net. The whole purpose of the emergency management committee is to address things as they come and be on top of things. And we had a structured way of doing it. We met on a weekly basis and a bi-weekly basis, and then as needed. And it all went fairly smoothly. And I believe that after declaring the state of emergency and then lifting the state of emergency as we have, we underscored the importance of what was going on. And like you say, Councillor Fody, our residents listened, did their part, and did the best they could to help support flattening the curve and minimizing spread of the virus. And I think we've done very well locally, and I'm very proud of that, and proud of the staff that have carried us through this pandemic. It's definitely, there's no roadmap. And I think that's something, I'm trying not to be critical, as regardless of level of government, there is no roadmap to this, and people have done the best they could. There's been lots of mistakes and missteps, but as long as you're willing to course correct and move forward, that's the most important thing. So any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Okay. Next motion that's on the floor. Sorry, I got ahead of myself again. Do that from time to time. So motion is made by Councillor Jameson and seconded by Councillor Fody, that the council authorizes the mayor and clerk to execute a declaration of landlord authorization that will enable the Frontenac Arch Biosphere Network the ability to install a story walk at Kendricks Park. Are there any questions or comments in regards to this motion? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. It's great to see that this initiative is being done by the Frontenac Arch Biosphere to help enhance Kendricks Beach, being a place I frequented in my earlier days. I was waiting for that. So it's always great to see that there's more improvements being made for the public to enjoy that park. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Next motion on the floor in regards to Community and Business Services Report SR 107-21, upcoming grant opportunities. The motion is by Councillor Fody and seconded by Councillor Jameson, that council supports the submission of grant applications under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program's Green Infrastructure Stream, and that council receives information on future grant opportunities, including Community Building Fund, Ontario Children Foundation, and Infrastructure Canada's Active Transportation Fund. Any discussion on this motion? Go ahead, Councillor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. I reached out to the Director of Operations, David Holliday, on a clarification regarding the monies that we would forward in reference to the water meters in Lansdowne. If Director Holliday wouldn't mind, I'd like him to redo that answer for the betterment of anyone else.
Thank you. Director Halliday.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. So the large portion of the money that we're looking for with this grant is to replace the remainder of 277 water meters in the village of Lansdowne. The purpose of that, they haven't come to the end of life as of yet, but what we're finding is that there's a trend where they are failing. We were at, I believe it was 145 when I started. It rapidly increased to 166 that are not reading. And we just want to pull the Band-Aid off and replace them all. If we can get the money for it, then it makes sense. We have a bit of an issue in filling out the grant. I found that roughly 48% of our water is unaccounted for. With not having the meter reads, we know what's coming out of the plant. I did an interpolation of what the water read should be for the properties based on the average of averages, sort of. And I'm finding that roughly 48% of the water we're not counting for. So that is a concern, and we need a better handle on where our water is going. That information will help us to understand if we have leaks, if people are actually using the water system, those types of things. And that's why this grant, I think, is a positive thing for us to be able to get ahead of that.
Thank you very much. And thank you for bringing that point up, Councillor Fody, and sharing that information. Any further questions in regards to the grant opportunities coming forward? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Next motion on the floor is Finance Report SR-108-21, updated 2021 Library Services Operating Budget. The motion comes by Deputy Mayor Lackey and seconded by Councillor Oakey. The council approved the revised 2021 library municipally funded operating budget in the amount of $433,100, and that the council approved the reallocation of $17,000 previously included in the library services operating budget to transfer into the capital infrastructure reserve fund. Discussion on this motion. Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? And we're carried. I'm going to take the liberty as chair to make a comment about that. Our librarian is here this evening, Ms. De Benedette. And I know that our counselors who sit on the board have worked very hard along with the other board members to streamline, clean up policy. And I know there's a lot of work still happening. But we're very pleased that along with our Treasury Department, that there really has been, I think, some efficiency found and a much more positive working relationship. And I know I appreciate that. I know the staff appreciates it. I think it'll translate into a much more simplistic budgeting for next year. And I'm hopeful that we can continue talks about finding efficiencies and looking for opportunities to partner and working with the Treasury and hopefully having a simple, straightforward budget cycle. So we're not having to come back later on in the year. So I'm very grateful for council members on the board who have been working hard along with the other board members. And please extend our thank you back to the board members when you go back next week. Thank you. Okay, and next on the agenda is motion moved by Deputy Mayor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Oakey, that the council approves the bylaw attached to Exhibit A to this report to dedicate and assume the portion of Lex Road located on the Township Road allowance between Concession 2 and Concession 3 across Lot 17, Lot 16, Lot 15, and part of Lot 14. Discussion on this motion. I've got Councillor Fody and then Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. In looking at the mapping and having gone down that road, just coincidence a couple of weeks ago and saw the near finished state, I was both impressed with the fact of the quality of the road from my last tour in May, I believe, and the fact that there appears to be housing development or the early stages thereof. My question is to Director of Operations, does that road geographically align itself with E2 Road, or is it a possibility, or is there geographical obstruction such as large rock to stop that down the road? Thank you.
Director?
That's a good question. I actually do not know the answer to that.
Oh, it seems that Councillor Maybe might be able to shed some light on that. Councillor Maybe.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, I have looked at the topographical maps, and even though they aren't meant to meet up, they definitely could in the future, because the He2 development has come quite a ways already, and it's got a little bit more to come. So there is a flat land area where they could actually connect. Now, I don't see that happening in our near future. It's probably roughly a kilometer of rough land yet to open up, but I'm sure it could happen in the future.
It's very interesting to even have that possibility. So thank you for asking the question. Go ahead, follow up.
Yes, please. Thank you, Your Worship. That would be my follow-up. If in fact that they even could possibly align someday, perhaps there should be direction given to both parties on either end. So I have to laugh because I'm thinking back to those of us been around here for a while, Deputy Mayor. When you go down some of these country roads and they're off by a couple hundred feet, and all it was the people laying out the lot lines and concession lines back in the day didn't have drones, if you will, flying around in 1930 to help them along. But now that we do, I would like to maybe that's the answer, maybe to put a drone up in the air at the end of one of these roads and just to see where they need to align to someday meet, because with the amount of development that appears to be set up, and should it follow through, and the He2 Road's a good example, there's a lot of activity there now and nice buildings going on there. It might be the right thing to do to look to the future of that road being one road. Thank you.
I think it's a great suggestion to take a look at, and who knows, if we're prepared, even if it doesn't happen for 20, 30 years, at least if we've considered it here, it's kind of like planting a tree now so that somebody can have the shade later. So go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I had just went down the road on the weekend there, and there's about 4 properties that are look like they're under some sort of development or clearing to make something happen there. The road is in really good shape. And to the other point that Councillor Fody made is that at the end of the road, you can just see off in the distance a power wire that actually runs north and south, which is kind of where He2 Road might connect at some point. So the other part of that was we're actually have worked on the upper end or the township part of the Lex Road. And I do see that the ditching is put in, but I also noticed, and this is probably to Director of Operations, the rock that is in that ditch yet, and when it might be coming out to actually let the flow of water move that way in a more precise manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. We had excavated everything that we could with our excavator, and now we require a hoe ram to come in. The hoe ram that we're going to be using is currently on Marble Rock Road. So once we complete Marble Rock Road and we have a bit of ditching to do on Gann Lake Road, then we're going to move back over to Lex and finish that project off for the year.
Thank you. Councillor Gorell.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Councillor Maybe brings up an interesting point, but about 2 years ago, it was Jordan Peary, a resident of Lex Road, who brought up the situation. And at that time, we couldn't offer him much regarding the flooding of his property. Is the work that we've done take care of Mr. Peary's property, in your humble opinion? I know you did promise us, David, that you could make water flow downhill. So thank you.
Thank you. Through your worship, the work that, once it is complete, the work that we have done so far will address Jordan Perry's property. It's not addressing the overall drainage. Our ultimate goal is to get the water down to the river. So there will be more work required further to the west and into the road section that we're assuming from Jerry Best. That's our ultimate goal, is to get the water down that way. We'll drain out the farmer's field And we'll also deal with all of the properties that have had water issues along the road. I'm waiting on Hydro to relocate the poles. And then at that point, we'll be able to continue the ditching further down the road to the west.
Okay, that sounds, I think that makes me very happy, considering that we had a very unhappy taxpayer for a good reason, a number of really difficult years, having his property flood on a number of occasions. And I know that obviously council appreciates it, as do I, that we have a director who's taken it to heart and found a way. So we appreciate that. But back to the matter at hand, in regards to assuming the road allowance, this will help us continue that work in the future. So thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion at hand, please signify. All those opposed, and we're carried. Thank you. Next motion is in regards to planning report SR-110-21 zoning bylaw amendment Z 2021-011 835 Elliott Lane, Hand and Stapleton. Moved by Councillor Olkey, seconded by Councillor Gorell, that the council, nope, that's not it. I've got, sorry. I almost nominated somebody for the Bill Thank Award on the wrong one. So that's all right. These things happen. Motion is moved by Councillor Olkey and seconded by Councillor Gorell that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment attached to this report as Exhibit F to rezone the subject property from floodplain FP and rural special exception 20-RU-20 to shoreline residential special exception 55 RS-55. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and it's carried. Okay, next. Now we'll go with the Bill Thank Award. And this is in regards to the Bill Thank Memorial EDC Leadership Award. And the motion comes forward by Councillor Olkey and seconded by Councillor Gorell that council hereby nominate Ulrich and Sylvan Fernitich for the Bill Thank Memorial Economic Development Leadership Award. Discussion on this motion. I'll have Deputy Mayor speak to that.
No questions, just comment. Having known Sylvan for 55 years and York for 52, I'm very happy to see that this has happened for them. So thank you.
Fair enough. Councillor Fody, you had something to say?
No, I think the deputy mayor summed it up well. They are community leaders. The Bill Thank Award, whom I knew Bill personally through his business, it exemplifies, or should I say the Fernitich boys, being third generation there, they exemplify what this award stands for. And throughout this pandemic, they were leaders in their own right. Handling food in a pandemic, maybe not an easy thing to do, but with the help of some of the township staff, changing protocols, aligning their staff to follow those protocols, I think a lot of people felt safe purchasing food and leaving that building. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Before I call the question, I'll just make my own in that I know that the Fernitich family really had a task at hand. And I know even back at Sealy's Bay, the Kellys, who also have a small grocery store out there, our small grocery stores, and I say small because they're not a big box store. They're not a superstore. They're not a Food Basics, what have you. During this pandemic, people flocked to these types of businesses because they did feel safe, because they felt among their peers. They felt that they were being cared for, regardless of price, regardless of selection, because the smaller stores don't always have the best selection compared to a superstore or what have you. But at the same time, it was about feeding their family, being comfortable going out, being comfortable coming home, and knowing that they knew where they were going and generally where the people were coming from. Not to mention the fact that a lot of people don't know that they have a great butcher shop there, so to speak. And that if you're ever looking for custom cut meats, if you make a phone call, they're happy to oblige and they have a great business there, and they employ a lot of people. And it during the difficulties that we've had over the last 19, 20 months now with the pandemic, it's been great to see them pull together and the community come together and support them. So I'm very proud and hopeful that this motion will pass unanimously so that we can put forward this great nomination. So all those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And we're carried. Thank you. Okay, so mayor's update. I already went through a bit of county. I want to let the residents know that we continue to have discussions with Infrastructure Ontario in regards to the broadband project. Regardless of the fact that we've canceled the tender, we are still in discussions with the province in their ongoing quest to wire the province in their or provide connectivity. We appreciate the fact that Minister Surma, as well as Infrastructure Ontario staff, have been willing to have discussions with us. I'm not quite willing to give up yet. And I know that our staff still have the information needed to prove that we have a solution potentially at the ready if we are so required. But that a one size fits all solution isn't going to work just because of the vast difference in topography throughout the province, as well as the needs of different municipalities. So we continue to press that issue. We have some new staff that have started here at the municipal office, which we're happy to see some growth in that regard. So if you're stopping in, be sure to introduce yourself and say hello to our new front counter staff. Monica Warren has joined us, as well as we had a whole mitt full of summer staff that have been come and gone and did a great job. And I know that we got a lot of feedback through the summer that the lawns, and if you think about it, the summer was very difficult. We had a lot of rain and consistently. So people were mowing their lawns more often than not. I also would like to extend a thanks to the planning department for handling an unprecedented amount of applications and building permit zoning questions, inquiries with limited staff over the summer. And they certainly stepped up. And I know it wasn't always easy and sometimes stressful, but we appreciate all the work that they did. And then going into the fall, we're going to be coming up to budget soon. So I'm sure everybody's waiting with bated breath and excited and hardly sleeping at night. And we're really looking forward to that. I had a preliminary conversation with the treasurer today in regards to asset management. We're probably looking at providing some training to council in regards to how that system will work, potentially right down to the nitty gritty. So we won't bore you with details just yet, but the good news is it isn't as shocking as I thought it might be. The deficit number, it's always a number that's going to change and evolve over time as more information presents itself. But I know the staff, specifically Director Tyndall and Director Holliday, have worked tirelessly to get the basics put in place, and it will only get better as time goes on and as more of the staff members come forward to provide the information that we need to make the most accurate budgeting possible, and hopefully be prepared for anything we might come across in the future. So thank you. And what else was there? I was going to, there's another appointment coming up here in the bylaws that is important. I won't preempt it, but we'll be appointing a new fire chief throughout the bylaws. So if anybody wants to pull, the next motion is for the bylaws. If anybody wants to pull anything, I'll just give you the preempt here that you can. But I'd like to thank the committee members for, along with the CAO, to pick our next fire chief. And we look forward to seeing the continued success of our fire department. So any notices of motion? No notices of motion? Okay. Any announcements? I have Councillor Oakey and then Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Although it's on our Township Leads Thousand Islands Facebook page, I'd like to draw attention to the fact that Lyndhurst and Sealy's Bay District Chamber of Commerce will be hosting a sidewalk sale in the village of Lyndhurst this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
So sidewalk sale in Lyndhurst, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Saturday.
this Saturday.
And it's kind of in replacement of the Turkey Fair, which we can't have this year.
Fair enough.
There may be a few surprises that sidewalk for smart shoppers.
Well, we'll ask people to maybe do a bit of a rural ramble and head out north and visit some of our businesses there. If you're looking for a nice drive on Saturday, please come and attend our businesses and shop till you drop, if you will. Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just an update, yesterday's event in Gananoque for the Pride Day went very well, well attended. But on this Sunday morning at the Rockport Hall at 9 a.m., the Thousand Island Terry Fox Run will be taking place. There's a limit of 100 participants. All contact tracing will be followed, all the protocols. And again, I'll get to start them off again and let them do their little wander down the parkway on a lovely sunny day, we're hoping. So, but please support Terry Fox and the cancer research, whatever way you can. It would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Are there any other announcements? Councillor Oki and then Councillor Fody. Oh, sorry, Jameson, sorry. My- Sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Jameson. Oh, Councillor Fody, would you like to go first? Because he's trying to collect himself. He's having an identity crisis. Go ahead.
Am I Councillor Jameson? No. I just want to give hats off to our volunteer firefighters. Again, it's not that they haven't been busy enough the last few weeks and especially the last few nights, but on Monday, Labor Day Monday, they were out collecting for the muscular dystrophy. And I was reading an email somewhere that they collected over $3,000. So congratulations to them.
Thank you. Councillor Jameson, would you like to speak?
Yes, please, Your Worship. I'd just like to thank the staff for doing a tremendous job changing the whole culture of fishing derbies in the north. To a lesser extent, Lyndhurst, but certainly in Sealy's Bay, we've had a lot of problems over the years with various fishing derbies. And this year, the villagers put their foot down and staff stepped up. And we had very successful 3 events through the summer. And the feedback from the residents who were most concerned has been very positive. Feedback from local businesses was that they were encouraging each other to encourage the fishers to use local businesses. And I understand from talking to some of the business owners that this was successful. So I'm looking forward to the point where we develop a policy on the use of the boat ramps in all the villages, which is really needed everywhere. This has been a positive learning experience. And I principally put it at the feet of our senior staff. And I particularly thank the CAO and Director Goodman for getting up at a very early hour this past weekend to monitor this. And on behalf of the village of Sealy's Bay, thanks, guys. Much appreciated.
Any other announcements? Councillor Maybe.
Sorry, Your Worship, I should have mentioned this before. Sunday was also the Firefighters Memorial Day, and I know the province of Ontario had us all put the flags down at half-mast. So again, our hats off to the firefighters, and in that turn, all the 911 responders also, since that was just past its 20th anniversary. And you know, I know that we had Canadians who passed away in that tragedy also. So it's pretty fitting that the memorial was on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just looking at the post, just to bookend your comment in regards to the firefighters and the memorial. We had, I believe, 3 or 4 of our volunteer firefighters who honored those who perished in 9/11 in their own way. And I'll just read this. On September 11th, 2021, for the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Jake Surson and I, the post is by Emily Yates, decided to climb 110 stories to provide remembrance and respect for the 2,977 victims that were tragically killed on this day in 2001. Of these victims, 441 of New York City's finest responders perished. We will never forget the lives that were lost, the innocent, the brave, 9/11. So, we're not far from New York City here. And these are young volunteer firefighters that have stepped up and become members of the service and have been for a few years now. They're certainly not recent recruits, but probably within the last 5 years. For them to take their time to do this, I think says a lot about the integrity and the compassion and the people we have in our service. So I look forward to seeing them develop as potential captains and potential fire chiefs and whatever else they choose to do in their firefighting career. So kudos to them, and thank you for honoring those who deserve it the most. So with that, I'll move forward to the passing of the bylaws, moved by Councillor Gorell and seconded by Councillor Oki, that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaws number 21-044, 21-045, 21-046, 21-047, 21-048, 21-049, 21-050, 21-051, 21-052, and 21-053. And that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 21-054, being the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the corporation, the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands at its committee of the whole meeting held on September 7th, 2021, and its council meeting held on September 13th, 2021. Any comments or questions in regards to any of the bylaws that are on the list here? I know there's quite a list. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe, and then Councillor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just wondering if we're going to pass all these, whether we're going to have a little special ceremony on installing the new fire chief. It seems a little fitting,
Well, we have to pass it first in order to make it special, but maybe we could have a standing ovation after that is done. So is there anything else on the list of bylaws that anybody has questions or final comments to be made before we call the question? I know Councillor Fody, did you put your hand up? It's been covered. Okay. Okay. Wow. This is a very unusual meeting. I shouldn't jinx it. Anyways, all those in favor of the motion at hand? All those opposed? And we're carried. Welcome. Thank you, Fire Chief. It gives me great pleasure to announce that Mike Pryor has now been appointed our fire chief here in the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands. I know that Mr. Pryor has given time and effort to firefighting since a teenager, I believe, on Howe Island is where he started. And his career has taken him not too far from home. Howe Island's not that far away, but we appreciate his effort. And we know that he's worked very hard recently, upgrading skills and taking on new tasks. And we look forward to seeing our service grow under your guidance. So thank you again. Okay, so motion at hand, moved by Councillor Gorell, seconded by Councillor Oki, that council adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? Non-debatable, and we're carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.